now for Leeds. And McNabb only half stopping him. Jones getting it across. And Clark going in! And Alan Clark has put Leeds ahead!
Live down under. Mark Viduka is a sporting god in Australia and now in West Yorkshire. Here he is again. It's Viduka. It's four. It's all his own work.
Hello, everybody. My name is Conor McGilligan. This is One Leeds, and this is the Instant Match Reaction, raw and direct. Leeds United getting a point in the Midlands, sharing the spoils with an Aston Villa side who are chasing that title, or at least chasing maybe the top two. So, yeah, look, gutted. Have to be honest, absolutely gutted. When you can see the goal in the 88th minute, it is... it does hurt, and in games of which, especially away from home, I've thought to myself, Leeds should have won the game. Sunderland, Brentford, Everton, which was very similar to today again, and Aston Villa. Look, there's points on the road at all those teams, which is a massive positive. But I think Leeds have been the better team for large portions of each of those individual games. And it's probably the correct result again, this game in particular. So I'm feeling a little bit better about this because Villa are a lot better than the teams that we've faced, let's be brutally honest. And they've not had a good last 4 games. But context-wise, a newly promoted side going to Aston Villa and getting a point. We've extended the gap to 7. If you'd have asked me at the very beginning of the game, would I have taken a point? Of course, I would have. I had Leeds on. I had Leeds on for a 2-2 draw in this one. I saw, a lot of the predictions at the very beginning were 3-1, 4-1, 4-0. I saw one of them for Villa. So it's a good result for Leeds. Of course, it is a point on the road. I think naturally the game state will always prevail, though, and will always come to the fore because you're always seeing it, and you're seeing Leeds winning the game in the 88th minute. And I think I've just seen Chris say it in the comment section as well. If Leeds win that game, you are probably looking around and saying we're safe. Do you know what I mean? And that's kind of the point of which is the frustrating thing about it. You're looking at it and thinking, if we'd have got a win there, I mean, that's it, innit? That feels like that's it. But what I would say, and let's just talk about the general points before we go into the fine bits of the game. And guys, super chats will be read out first, members, etc., etc. So thank you so much for your support. But you look at it overall, and if I was to say to you that when we've got Chelsea, Villa, and then we've got Man City, if I was to say to you, you get 2 points out of those 3 games, you would turn around and go, what? Are you serious? And that's what we've got so far. You've gone to Chelsea, you've got a point. You've gone to Villa, you've got a point. It just would have been so sweet to get that win, wouldn't it? But a jammy goal at the end, and it just goes in off Abraham's knee, and it's just annoying because I called it. I literally said when he came on, I went, it's going to go in off his arse or something like that, the beanpole. And it was just a scrappy goal, horrible. And, at least with the Stack absolute goal of the season, as a Villa fan, you can turn around and say, well, that was an absolute wonder goal. We turned around at the end of that and just see that scabby goal going in. And you just think to yourself, God, what could have been. But, as I've said, it's another really good result for Leeds. And now that's, you're going away to Villa, you've gone away to Liverpool, you've gone away to Chelsea, you're going away to all of these teams and picking stuff up. So you're looking at Leeds and thinking you'll be absolutely fine, when it comes to the results. I think West Ham, and this could, look, some of you will be watching this afterwards, and I hope I'm wrong. And I've been wrong plenty of times before, but West Ham, I think, are going to close that gap today. I think they will beat Bournemouth, so that's going to close it again to probably around, I think that'll be 4 points. Is that correct? If they win, I believe that'll take it to 4. Let's have a quick look. Sorry, guys, I'm doing this live. Standings. So, yeah, if they win, in fact, no, they win up 27. Yeah, it'll be down to 4 points. So, yeah, I mean, and it might not. Look, if they don't win the game, which will be brilliant as well, and we'll be watching that with a keen eye, won't we? If they don't win the game, amazing. And, we can see it as a good weekend, of course, with Forest obviously having Liverpool coming up. But, yeah, I mean, the game, once again, there's not that much to dissect. I thought Leeds were Leeds were much better first half. I thought there was opportunities. Dom missed a one-on-one, and he couldn't really do that much about it. I thought he did really well to take it down. It'd have been his best goal for Leeds if he'd have scored that, in my opinion. Lovely deft touch with his left foot, which really, put it into his stride for that finish, and he just had to stretch and he couldn't quite get to it. And it's a good save there from Martinez. And I thought Leeds were really conjuring some good chances between the lines in that first half. We were looking dangerous on transition. I thought in the final third, we were good without being complete. I thought sometimes we were going forward, especially with Gabby Goodman, who I actually thought Gabby had his worst game in a Leeds shirt. There was loads of opportunities where maybe Aronson or Ampadu would slide him in on that left-hand side and he'd just balloon it out for a throw-in or balloon it past Dominic Calvert-Lewin, who'd been darting in the box and wrestling with Mings to get in there, just put a good delivery in, and he'd spoon it over him and he'd spoon it over into the corner for Jaden or Justin to recover it. But I thought Justin and Bogle on that right-hand side looked good as well. I thought in the first half, I'll be honest with you guys, I thought in the first part of the game, Ollie Watkins was getting the rub of the green over Rodon a little bit. There's a couple of times where Rodon went down. One time he was holding his face a little bit, but I thought physically Watkins was competing with Rodon very, very well. And I thought maybe the matchup throughout the game with him and Beal would have been sided on Beal's side a little bit, because Beal's like 5 inches bigger than him and a much bigger presence. But I thought Rodon toward the back end of the first half got to grips with him a little bit better, which was good to see. Have to say with Rodon, their goal, I'm disappointed. I am disappointed with Joe Rodon. I thought he got, and this is just moving ahead a little bit, but when you're looking at Joe, I thought he got sort of physically handled in that box by Konsa there. And then obviously he flicks it on to Tammy Abraham. But I thought, physically, this is what I mean when you look at Beal and you look at Strauch. I think physically they were a little bit more dominant than what Joe Rodon is. I think Joe's excellent in, the perception and blocking and intercepting and all this sort of stuff. I just maybe think sometimes that those physical battles, they lean more towards Strauch and Beal, I feel anyway. Maybe that's just a size thing. But yeah, and then, throughout the game, I thought the midfield played well. I thought Ampadu grew into the game. I thought he started a little bit shaky, some of his passing, but I thought he really grew into the game and, just shows why he is just ever more a top Premier League player. I thought Gruev was okay today. He was all right. Wasn't, as people keep telling me, he's in there to do a job and just pass it around and keep it ticking. So if that is his job and that is the role, then fair enough. If there's nothing more that can be laid at his door in terms of what I'd like to see him do more of, like he did in the Forest game, that's fine. A lot of people always tell me that he's there to just pass the ball and keep it ticking, which is fine. Didn't think he was immense today. I thought sometimes, especially with like I've criticised him for before, and I know some of you guys don't like it, but I felt sometimes it was a bit sideways and backwards. But what I will say for Gruev is there was a couple of times in that midfield where he recovered the ball and did well. But I thought the absolute man of the match and the man who was above everybody in that Leeds United team was Anton Stark. The recoveries, the blocks, the duels, the strikes on goal. He was Leeds' most, in my opinion, prominent attacking player today. He was immense, Anton Stark, absolutely immense. And without him in that team, I know he scored the free kick, but without him in that team, I think we'd probably get done 2 or 3. Just his ability to progress the ball from our defensive half and run with the ball at pace and which I think is quite deceptive. I think Stack's got a bit of pace about him, but the power as well he gets Leeds up the pitch with, and it's difficult. It's difficult for the opposition to be able to counter something like that. And I think if we're able to keep hold of him, it'll be a staggeringly good summer for Leeds, because he is going to have a lot of interest, like Will, I should say, who once again I thought had a really good game today. A couple of times where I thought, he tried to play the ball into Stack and he tried to play it through a player and the player intercepted it, and then they went on the transition. And Villa always seemed dangerous at that point. They're so good technically that they can find gaps anywhere as well. So I felt keeping hold of the ball was really important today. Aronson was causing a little bit of chaos, but I didn't think on the ball he was good today. I thought his decision making was a little bit off as well, which when you're coming up against the Villa side who can recover that ball and then pass it to eye of the needle players like Morgan Rogers and Buendia, who I thought grew into the game, and then they're bringing Sancho on. All these players who between the lines are very effective. Watkins, Tammy Abraham. You've got to be very, very keen with on and off the ball, really. And I thought sometimes on the ball, Leeds were a little bit careless. But look, I thought overall it's a brilliant point. It's a really, really good point. We need Bournemouth to do us a favour. We need some of these teams to actually do us a favour against West Ham. We really need some of these teams to actually show up against the Hammers, to be honest with you. But yeah, I think that's probably the overarching disappointment for me is just the fact that I thought if we'd have got a win, I wouldn't have come on and said it's done, but I'd have said, monkey off our back, away win, another away win, brilliant. And I know Forest stayed up, didn't they? And I think it was 2 away wins. But at this point, it feels like we're just not going to get that away win. Even against Birmingham, we're just always going to concede, aren't we? It just always feels like we could be in the 92nd minute and something's going to happen. Whether or not it's Krupi Jr., whether or not it's Patrick Roberts, they're putting a deflected one in from 40 yards, or whether or not it's going in off Tammy Abraham's kneecap into the top corner. I mean, how's your luck? But yeah, it just feels like with Leeds, and I've mentioned this several times, we cannot just sit back. We can't do it. We're not good enough, I feel, as a defensive unit to be sitting back and defending in a low block. I think you saw that against Everton. I thought you saw that. I mentioned Brentford and Sunderland before in areas of the game where we kind of just sat back and almost let the opposition effectively progress up the pitch and gain a bit of momentum and success. And it gives them confidence. If you don't bring another attacking body on as well. If Farke doesn't bring an attacking body on, I've mentioned this before, but that just means Mings and Konsa and Cash and Maatsen can just push up because they've got one man to think about. If they're playing a high line, they'll just play the offside trap. So if you do that, then you are waiting. You're a sitting duck for the opposition to conjure some attacks and score goals. And Villa have the capability to do that. And I thought we'd sort of defended against that relatively well. But, I was gutted at the end, but I just can't get it out of my head that this is going to come in away games. It always feels like they're just going to score the opposition teams, regardless of who we play against at the minute. And I think we're at a bottom 4 or bottom 5 or 8 when it comes to our success away from home this season in all 4 divisions. So that's a pretty damning stat. So it's a point away on the road. It's not been negative, everybody, at all. It's just I felt we were so close to getting that golden nugget against the top 3 side, which had just been so immense. But overall, we were well deserved of a point. I think what I'd have done, if I'm being honest with you, is, and we mentioned this on the 60th minute, I thought Farke had the ability and the option, I should say, to bring Dan James on. And I felt in that game in particular, and I mentioned, I thought Villa started advancing a little bit and Dom came a little bit isolated. And when he brought Mecha on, it kind of balanced it out a little bit more. But I thought in particular, when Aronson and Stack looked really, really leggy, I thought in around the 60th minute, I thought this is an opportunity to put Dan James on. Dan James will naturally stretch the opposition. It means that the defense also have an out ball in James. They have that natural out ball. And I thought that was a mistake from Farke today, not putting James on, because I felt he'd have stretched Villa a little bit more. We might have been able to get that second goal with DJ, been able to maybe, and you got to think if they're playing a high line and James is able to make that run precisely beyond that high line, nobody's catching him. So it just felt like that was an obvious sub today. We didn't make that, but Mecha coming on, I thought sort of recalibrated the balance a little bit for Leeds United up front, which was a good thing. And look, I'll look back on this. We'll do videos tomorrow and the days after, and I'll say this was a brilliant point, especially if West Ham aren't able to get it done. It just feels a little bit raw right now, as I'm sure you guys can all attest to. The general picture is, it's a good point. Of course it is. The game state, I keep mentioning this, and I will mention it until I'm blue in the face. I got criticism when I mentioned, people came in and they said, Connor, a point at Brentford at the G-Tech's a great result. 100%. A point at the Stadium of Light is a great result. 100%. A point at Everton is a great result with the position we're in. 100%. But in those game states, Leeds had periods, and arguably more dominant periods than the opposition. And the game state can form conclusions. You don't always have to go at, but it does form perspective, but you don't always have to go before the game. Would you have taken this? Well, of course I'd have taken this, but the game state naturally dictates how you think and how you thought process. In that game, I thought Leeds, a win, I wouldn't have turned around and gone, that was, Leeds completely didn't deserve that. I wouldn't have said that. A draw was probably a fair result, but I don't think Leeds were completely undeserving of a win in that game. So yeah, and that naturally makes you think a little bit, wayward a little bit, but good point in the grand scheme of things. I've seen Burnley have got a point as well, and this puts Leeds on 31, which is brilliant, obviously. 31 points. Leeds are in 15th still. How many points are we below? Brighton have gone into this is what a 3 points does for you as well, guys. Then beating Brentford away, that's put them straight into 12th position. And I don't know if we're talking about Brighton anymore. And that's how quickly it is. That's how quickly it is. It's mental how it works. Already Brighton are 2 points behind Sunderland. 27 games played, and we were all talking them as like a sinking ship, and they've just gone away to Brentford and won, and that's changed the whole perspective of things, hasn't it? So, yeah, Spurs still there, Forest still there, so we'll have to wait and see, I guess. Let's see what you guys are saying. Fraser's become a member. So has E. Earl Bamber. Cheers, mate. PRM says another jammy late goal conceded. Gone from 9 cleared to potentially 4 by the end of the day. Ref, oh man. It's not normal on here that we talk about referees. You can go through hours, and not that you would, but hours and hours and hours of one Leeds footage. What I'll always try to do is I'll put it on the players and the manager and this, because I'm always like, we can dictate our future if we're good enough. We can dictate proceedings because a referee shouldn't dictate how the flow of a game goes. If you're good enough, you'll win that game or you'll draw that game, whatever it may be. He was horrific. Worst refereeing performance I've seen this season. Watkins would go down. Immediate free kick, of which there was a couple of times where Villa nearly scored. There was an opportunity there was a phase of play in the second half where Dominic Calvert-Lewin was in the corner, and you're looking at it, and he's going up. He literally goes up to Maatsen at Konsa, I think it was, the big burly centre back, goes up and he's putting a little bit of pressure on him. You're not just going to let Konsa have the ball because that's not how football works. You have to initiate a bit of pressure to, regain the ball, because that's what the game is. It's a game of two teams and winning the ball back and hurting the other team. So he goes up to him, doesn't touch him. Konsa puts his arse, or Maatsen puts his arse into Dominic Calvert-Lewin, and the linesman is half a yard away from him. Starts flagging. What are you doing? Embarrassing. Giving the decision because of the crowd, giving the decision because of the occasion. Michael Oliver was hideous today. Hideous. Everything. He might as well just put that Villa shirt on. I think he had it on underneath that black top as well. Gave Dominic Calvert-Lewin, in comparison to Watkins, nothing. Stack went down a couple of times in the first half. Free kick, didn't give it. Just let Villa carry on. Any time a Villa player would go down, foul. They'd look at the referee, foul every single time. Watkins would look at the referee, that he'd be in a battle, foul. An embarrassing performance from Michael Oliver. And we don't normally go on about that, but be fair. I understand they're an established Premier League team. I understand there's Unai Emery, European winner there. I understand that they've got, 50,000 fans there shouting and blaring at you to give to certain decisions. But be brave. You're on a lot of money. You're a staple referee in this country. Be a bit braver, be a bit more courageous. Embarrassing performance from him. Then Frame says, I like Farke, but if we look across the season, his in-game management has cost us points. I hope we can play more confidently in the second season. We always can't be happy with that. No, and I agree, then Frames. It's frustrating, and we always come on, afterwards and go, but it's a good point in it. And we like I've said, with Brentford, with Sunderland, with Chelsea was a brilliant point, obviously. And today was a brilliant point, but we're coming away from these games, and when we're winning the games, I think Everton's probably the stark example. When we're winning the games and we end up drawing, when we've had such a really good period. And that's why I keep saying in these games, Leeds have to press the opposition for large portions of it to maybe get that second goal. Because if we don't go out for a second goal, we are going to concede. But it is a valiant effort from the lads, of course. Cracky show yet again. The game was crying out for pace. I agree, mate. I completely agree. Carlos's lack of depth means nothing if you don't make any changes. Leeds does have a bench that never gets an opportunity. I'd agree with that, mate. I'll be honest with you. I thought the bench looked really good today. It looked really healthy, didn't it? Nathan says we are going to concede late goals. As a newly promoted side, we don't have the depth like other teams. I disagree with that. I think the depth is pretty decent, to be honest with you. Chris says win today gives us breathing space. West Ham win, and we are what in again. I guess that's kind of where I'm at with it as well. And it's not about half glass empty and half glass full and all that sort of stuff. I think it's a really good point on the road. When you objectively look at it, we'll look at it at the end of the season. If we do stay up, we're going to look at that and say brilliant. But you've also got to look on the flip side of it and think, if we don't quite make it at the end of the season, we're going to be looking at these points on the road when we've been winning games, and we'll be thinking, we had to close that out. We had to close that out with 3 minutes to go. With 20 minutes, 15 minutes to go against Everton, a poor Everton side. We had to close that out. So it's just a logistical way of thinking about it. You can look at that and two things can be right. You can say it's a good point on the road, but you can also look at that and think, what is it? What is it? And look, we'll be looking at that. I'm sure the analysts will be looking at that, and the statisticians. I've always struggled with that word. And the backroom staff at Ellen Road, and they'll be looking at that because we heard Mike Keegan, didn't we? When he did his Daily Mail rag, and he was saying that the club are aware that there is a lot of reliance on Leeds to get 3 points at home. There is a hell of a lot. We're all talking and we're going Wolves at home, win. Burnley at home, win. Brighton at home, win. Brentford at home. We're all doing this thing where it's win, 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 win at home, but it puts a lot of pressure on the home games. So you have kind of got to get the odd win away from home. And when you haven't won since September, late September, early October, I think it was, against Wolves, who were already relegated away from home. When you've not done that all season, and you've been relatively impressive at home, haven't we? Let's be honest. But when you're in the bottom three, when it comes to a record away from home in the division, that's got to slightly improve. It has got to slightly improve, especially when you're looking at the games that we've got coming up away from home: Palace, Spurs, West Ham. You've got to look at 3 points in one of those games, maybe even two of those games. It can't just always be go away and get a point because let's say Kingy's right there and hope he's wrong. But if West Ham are winning these games and we are drawing, that's becoming a little bit of a problem, isn't it? So there has got to be some wins away from home in there as well to just balance that. You can't just completely focus on home games. It's a lot of pressure on the home games, that, especially from the fans. Unexpected wins, get them in the pocket, brilliant, like today would have been. But we've still got more to come, of which we can get those unexpected wins. Today was an unexpected point, wasn't it? I had us down for a point, but once again, game state just dictates how disappointed we are with that. Keith says, still a brilliant result and a massive point. West Ham lose now and totally make my weekend. Definitely, mate. Chris says, a good point, agreed. But how many ties have we conceded from 85 minutes onwards? I texted my mate at 82 saying, worried we always concede. Yeah, I mean, mate, on the watch along, I went quiet for about 5 minutes because it's kind of like what's coming. And Villa kept getting forward and forward, and you just thought one of them's going to drop here at some point. It's going to drop, and it did. And it did. It's Common Sense says, typical Farke to go goal up and sit back and try defend. How many times does this have to happen before the penny drops with Farke? Leeds are always stronger playing their natural game. Yeah, I mean, I felt there was, I guess, you know what you've got to do? It is common sense. You got to look at, in a sense, the opposition as well. It is Aston Villa. They're a top side. They are going to throw bodies onto the pitch. Sorry, guys, I just switched off there. I know there'll be a. What we have to do is look at the opposition, don't we? We have to look at the opposition, and it is Aston Villa. It's Aston Villa. They are not far behind Man City at this moment in time. What is it, 2 points? So you've got to think they're going to influence the game as well. What do you think Villa fans are saying? Villa fans are saying, well, come on, let's chuck more bodies on. And Villa fans have got so many bodies out, and they're still able to bring on Ross Barkley. I thought Ross Barkley was good when he came on. I thought Jadon Sancho was good when he came on. They're able to do this. Bogard, who's a good player, physical body in there as well, quick. They brought him on, Tammy Abraham on. Guys, this is what we're talking about. So as much as I get it, you kind of got to look at it as well and say, what would Villa be saying? What would their fans be saying at this newly promoted side? We've got to be beating Leeds. So to go away to Aston Villa, and I know it's frustrating, but I tell you what, West Ham, Nottingham Forest will be buzzing with that. Absolutely buzzing. Bearing in mind, Nottingham Forest went here and lost. West Ham are coming here soon. So we'll wait and see what West Ham do at Aston Villa. But I tell you what, everybody, that's an impressive point on the road today. An impressive point on the road. And once again, Chelsea, draw. Forest, win. Villa, draw. We're not losing games. We're not losing games. The drawing thing, 100%, definitely. But, yeah. It was an enjoyable game of football this afternoon. It was stressy. But it was an enjoyable game of football. if I take a step back as well and I have a look at it, and I think to myself, where we were last season and where we've been as Leeds United fans, and this is why I think we've got a good gauge on perspective. Leeds at this moment in time are, I think we're a good team to watch. I love watching us at home. I think we've got a lot of results this season where I've looked at and I've thought before the game, I thought, nah, we're losing this. Chelsea, Villa, I thought Brentford was going to be tough. I thought Sunderland was going to be tough. And we've gone and we've turned and we've got a point. Everton, another one. We're not absolutely dreadful away from home. It's just seeing out that win. But if you're drawing, and you're picking up points consistently, which we are really on the road, that's an improvement in your away form. And also the games of which we're saying, well, we should have won that away from home. But if you're conjuring 3 draws on the bounce, that kind of satisfies that 3 points, doesn't it? It equals it. So I know it's frustrating, but a point at Stamford Bridge with the injuries that we had, let's be honest, that game, you look at the amount of injuries we had out in that game as well, and then you look at this game in particular, and you look at the impact like Strauch had when he was back and Stack and how much better we looked, the options that we have off the bench. That's another point today. Another point. It's 31 points. We went down with 31 points with Jesse Marsh. Just let that sink in. We went down with 31 points under Jesse Marsh. So I'm trying to take perspective out of it. I'm trying to put perspective into it. Once again, this is Aston Villa, who are 3rd in the division, who, let's be honest, when they were at Ellen Road last time out, they probably should have won the game by about 4 or 5 in that second half. I thought they were okay today. They had players missing, but I don't care. Yeah, I don't think it's a bad result today for us at all. Game state's annoying, but like I said, now you've got to look at it, right? And we had these tough games. We've got City coming up at home, which who knows? Who knows? Likely we'll lose the game, but I keep saying this with us. Keep saying we're likely going to lose that game, and to be fair, I didn't today. I said we'd get a draw. I said it'd be 2-2. But Leeds are continuing, let's be right, to disprove us. They are at points. I mean, let's just have a look at our results, shall we? Leeds United results. So a lot of us didn't predict that today. Beating Birmingham, yeah, but still a good result. Drawing to Chelsea, beating Forest. Arsenal game was a blip, I think. But then you've drawn to Everton away. You've beaten Fulham. You've drawn to Man United. You've drawn to Liverpool. You've drawn to Sunderland. You've smacked Palace. You've drawn to Brentford. You've drawn to Liverpool. You've smacked Chelsea. And then you've narrowly lost to Man City. Yeah, that's been our run of results. There is literally one game in there which is a blip. And that's Arsenal. That's it. And you look at the fixtures that we've had in there. Aston Villa, Chelsea, Everton, Fulham, Man United, Liverpool, Sunderland, Brentford away, Liverpool again, Chelsea. There has been one blip in that entire run. So when you look at our last, what are we on now? So we'll be on 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Wait, is that right? Yeah. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. It's 10 games left, people. That's it. 10 games left. 10 games left. And in those 10 games, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We've got 5 home games. 5 home games and 5 away games. The away games in there: Bournemouth, Spurs, West Ham, Palace. 6 games left at home. I just forgot City. So I don't know. Mr. P says, a great point, but considering how long we've led, it's a gut punch. We definitely need the 3 points versus City now. Random Yorkshireman says, evening Connor, it's another game where I'll take a point, but we should have won. Still Villa are class and I expected now. Move on. Exactly, mate. Exactly. Chris says, but how many of those did we throw away? The thing is, though, Chris, it's not gonna be perfect, mate. I understand what you're saying, and I get and I'm frustrated, mate, completely. But you've got to take, and once again, I have to say I'm frustrated with today because I'm looking at the game state, and I agree with you, and it's got to improve. But it's our first season back in the Premier League. We're not going to be complete enough in even 3 or 4 of those away games to be able to get the job done consistently. And you can't even say with like an elite manager, we're somehow going to be able to, shut up shop and put in a defensively excellent performers against all of these teams, and their attacking force isn't going to be able to break Leeds down, because ultimately, Chris, we've got a lower caliber team than a lot of these. A lot of these. You know, a lot of these teams, aside from Burnley and Sunderland, maybe, but maybe some people would argue, maybe not, probably Burnley and Wolves, every other team, I would say Leeds have as good of individual quality as Sunderland. But like above that, every single team has better individual quality than Leeds United. Every single team. So when we're talking about defending Leeds, when we're winning, it's very, very hard. Even with a top manager, you know, if you were to put a top manager in there, to be able to defend in a way of which we all would see as the ideal. I understand we need to, and look, when we're kind of looking at this now, when we're looking at the easier away games, which I would say they are, when you're looking at Villa away, when you're looking at Chelsea away, when you're looking at Liverpool away, games like that, all these sort of games that we've had away from home. City was another one away where we narrowly lost. You've now got away games like Palace, West Ham, Tottenham, of which we should be winning. We should be winning some of these games. That's what you've got to target, you know? Chris says West Ham almost 1-0 up in the first minute, missed from 2 yards. I think they'll stay up, mate. I think they're going to stay up. I don't think, yeah, we're going to look at West Ham, but I just think they've got enough to stay up. West Ham are probably going to finish relatively high, to be honest with you. I had them to go down, but it's because I've just got no other team to go down. I can't think of another one. But yeah, guys, we're going to head on over to the Patreon now and do our player ratings. It's been an absolute pleasure. Like before you leave, we'll be back with some more other